there, this is Della Rucker, principal of the Wise Economy Workshop and author of the book, The Local Economy Revolution Has Arrived, What's Changed, and How You Can Help, available wherever you get your books. I'm a little excited about today, a little extra. It seems like I'm usually excited. I'm kind of an excitable human being. Tonight, 7 p.m., we have the Accelerate Us Salon, our conversation, our deep dive, our real talk about fear and about being afraid and overcoming fear when it comes to any kind of work that is about taking care of the communities that matter to us. So whether we're a volunteer or a professional or an elected official or whatever our role is, if we step out on a limb and we say and work to make our communities better, at some point, we're going to be afraid. We're going to hit a moment of fear. Maybe it's fear of rejection, fear of somebody's disapproval. Maybe it's fear of losing a position or some power or even a job. We're going to be talking tonight with some professionals who have lived that experience, and in some cases have lived that more than once. So these are folks who, have stood in those shoes, and they're going to show us what it looks like to be there, to deal with it, and to overcome that fear and move beyond that, even if there were some repercussions to taking that stand. So I'm super excited to be able to have that conversation. That'll be right here, wherever you're watching this video. It'll be right here, 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. So don't miss it. Don't miss it. I think this is really going to be one, whether you're new in this work or you've been doing it for a long time, this is going to be one that you're not going to forget. So hope you'll be able to join us, and it will be available afterward. And since I'm on here today, I figured I'd do a little reading. So I've been going through sections from The Local Economy Revolution Has Arrived. This is a revision of a book that I wrote way back in 2013, which doesn't sound like it's that long ago until you actually think back to 2013. And then you're like, oh my God, that was like, sometimes it feels like a whole nother lifetime. So last year I went back and went through this book and rewrote it. Some of the pieces are similar. Some of the pieces are unchanged, but a lot of it is new content, new perspectives, and new insights coming from, the range of experience that I had had since 2013. And I put some miles on in the intervening years. So I wanted to make sure that we were talking about the issues that are mattering in public engagement and in the work of engaging the public in our community today. The book covers everything from supporting small businesses to futurism and evaluating mega changes and how they'll impact our local communities. Public engagement is an issue that's really close to my heart and is one that I return to again and again and again, no matter what kind of work I'm doing. And I come to it from a very basic point of view, which is that if we're going to live in a world where the traditional solutions maybe don't apply so much anymore, where we're dealing with volatility and uncertainty that runs the gamut from how are we going to be communicating with people 2 years from now to the climate and the future of the planet, then we need as many brains as we can get. And I don't mean the zombie type. I mean the actual functioning, working brains. We need as much insight, as much perspective, and as much problem solving and as much creativity as we can get. And very, very, very often, whether we're running community organizations or governments or economic development organizations or you name it. We talk to and we draw ideas from people who are like us. And then, surprise, surprise, we don't actually find a solution that works. Sometimes we end up repeating the same sort of, kind of did some things, but not really what we needed. We do that over and over again because we're talking to the same people. We're getting the same insights. And so a lot of this book and a lot of the work that I've done over the last 20 years has been around the question of how do we broaden the involvement of the members of our community in actually making an impact in what we're trying to accomplish for the resilience, the health, the future of the communities that we care about. But a lot of times, especially people who are experienced, hit that issue that we're going to talk about tonight, which is fear. Fear that other people aren't going to like us. Fear that people are going to get mad. Fear that people are going to protest or fight back. And that's a legitimate fear. I don't want to delegitimize that in the least. And if you don't look like me, that fear can have a much, much, much more legitimate base. Not to say that, when people like me are afraid of how the public or how other people are going to feel, that doesn't affect us as well. But when it comes to engaging that public, whether it's a meeting in a city hall about a project, whether it's a community organization that's trying to figure out how to redevelop a site, whatever kind of work you're doing, at some point you're going to touch and need to interact with the public. And very often, the systems that we've sort of adopted or assumed or got handed down to us from our predecessors. And, a good example here is the public meeting, the standard sort of, think about a zoning hearing or a city hall meeting, city council meeting. We have these systems that have been handed down to us that are actually, it's almost as though they were intentionally designed to give us extraordinarily crappy public feedback experience. Like if you were going to make one, if you were going to design a meeting to have people angry, confrontational, ill-informed, and generally miserable about the experience, regardless of where you are on the spectrum of whatever issue you're holding an event on. At the end of the day, something that I've seen over and over and over and over again is that at the end of that experience, everybody's miserable. Everybody's unhappy. Everybody is not getting what they feel that they need out of that experience. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And it ranges from how we set up the rooms to who we invite and how we extend those invitations. Sometimes it has a lot to do with history and how, experiences have unfolded that maybe happened before we were even born. And yet they're still having a very profound impact on what happens in that room today. So this is one relatively short piece from this book that talks about one of those factors. And it's an issue that I see a lot in public visioning or public feedback or public participation events that are around what should the future of this community be like. And one of the things that I call it very often, which you're going to hear in this, is it's Santa Claus public engagement. So this section is called Who's the Unrealistic One Here? One of my ongoing frustrations with public engagement is the assumption in some corners that good public engagement means letting people recommend or promote any idea they want, free from the bounds of real-world constraints. We let them spin their wildest ideas. And then, when they find out that we didn't use their ideas, they accuse us of not listening. Meanwhile, while we're supposedly not listening, we roll our eyes and mutter about how unrealistic the public is. I often refer to this as the Santa Claus approach to public engagement. Oh, I've been a good girl this year. I won a pony and a rocket launcher and a Ferrari. And like most things that don't work as we intended, the root of the problem with this Santa Claus approach is in how we've structured that engagement. Because that structure is what sets the stage for what we did. Teachers, business coaches, and more know that generating effective creative ideas requires working within a structure. People need a realistic context. They need real-world sides on the box if they're going to create something that is both new and useful. So if you don't believe me, try this exercise at your next staff meeting or meetup or coffee clutch or whatever you do. Step number 1, ask the people who are there to list a number of ways in which they can use a brick. So a brick like in a building. They can use it anywhere, anytime. There's no restrictions. Give them about a minute. Typical answers will involve a paperweight, a doorstop, or a weapon. Step number 2. Identify a specific place or context. In the kitchen, in a park, in your kid's room, and ask the same people to list all of the ways that they could use a brick in that place. For example, if it's a kitchen as the context, people may find uses like heating it up to make a panini, or flattening a lump of dough, or using it as a trivet. And then step number 3, ask the group which approach, the first one, the unbounded creativity, or the second one, connecting it to something, yielded a more creative solution. So this exercise was taken from Stephen Shapiro in Innovation Excellence, and he wrote, nearly 90% of audiences choose the second way. In fact, when we take the time to evaluate the uses, there is indeed much greater divergence when using the second method. The first approach, tends to yield a lot of very common solutions. So we generate more ideas, more creative ideas, and more directly useful ideas when we ask people to think about solutions within a realistic context, rather than when we just throw the door open for ideas. That means that if we want to honor and respect the time that our residents and our community, our business owners, and others are giving to us when we ask them to participate, we need to stop putting them in situations where all they can do is come up with Santa Claus lists. Instead, we need to give them realistic situations that allow them to address meaningful challenges and try to solve them. We need to give them the opportunity to do something that will actually matter. We owe them, and we owe ourselves, a better experience than the useful wandering we so often give them as public participation. So, again, that's a selection from The Local Economy Revolution Has Arrived, What's Changed, and How You Can Help. And thanks for listening. I definitely hope that you'll be able to join me and my panelists tonight, 7 p.m. right here for an Accelerate Us Salon talking about fear and overcoming fear in the process of making your community better. If you're interested in learning more, you can find The Local Economy Revolution Has Arrived any place you get your books in print or digital format. You can learn more about my work at the Wise Economy Workshop, wiseeconomy.com. And if you want to get a weekly dose of future-ready insights on how the evolving world and this local economy revolution is happening on the ground all around us, but maybe you didn't see it yet. If you want to get a weekly dose of that and other benefits, check out the Substack at wiseeconomy.com/substack.com. Again, I'm Della Rucker. Thanks so much for taking the time to sit and talk with me today. And I hope I see you tonight, 7 p.m. right here. Bye.